The Gnome and I.
The ghost of the old pop song mesmerizes the spent possibilities. What is the past, the present, and the future? Heart, mind of the higher dimension. The world is as we think it, even before it begun. Yes, I am living in the past, the present, and the future, where the adolescent girl swallows a viral snot, where the mathematical answers to my very question is not, where I believe I heard a young boy crying, where I spend my time being brave and trying, where I can't remember, I can never see what it is I left behind, and for the life of me, I don't know what to do. Brother, can you spare a dime? Can you help me make it through? Edgar Casey's vision trapped in the brittle celluloid, Jack Kerouac swimming in his crucifix across the bleached floors inside St. Anthony's shroud. The gypsy girl devours a vomiting tabloid, and she reads the cards, dancing around the coming mushroom cloud, her eyes green and speckled brown. Johnny Cass in Joseph's psychedelic raincoat, his stoic halo breaks into a frown as he falls out of Folsom Prison Blue. Bob Dylan holding Robert Johnson's guitar momentarily smiles in a different shade of taboo. Rasputin drinking vodka all the dying livelong day, over 100,000 miles over and over and over again. I don't know what else to say, but I keep slipping on these blood-drenched tiles, waiting on Chinese machine gun ripping and leaving behind a billion human piles. Haiku? Haiku who? Haiku you. Ezra Pound is on the Axis radio again. T.S. Eliot, fearful and shaking. Friedrich Nietzsche proclaims an ode to original sin, and that one only gets what he has taken. Didn't I tell you that this game you cannot win? Don't you know how my heart is breaking? That the golem is coming from the ground? Haven't you figured out that I can't be faking? I always thought it you'd be keeping. Didn't you know my heart is beating? Can't you hear its murmuring sound to a rhythm that is drumming backward, and that the days are here and winding down? I see faces everywhere. The wall spackle winks at me on the restroom wall about town, and where the tissue dispenser was ripped off the stall, leaving 2 screw holes at her eyes, and under these a gash for a mouth, half smiling with pipe hole corner. A suds bubble in a crowd of its peers frowns back at me as if to say it's all been done before. After the final church bell tolls, looking for the brighter side of life before popping as if to say, God have mercy on our souls. Seemingly the sun rolls over these illuminating salutations and over the cottony movements across a powder blue tarp. A gargoyle frightens it all through the subterfuge of the adjacent subtropical foliage. A cherubim and a seraphim bend the strings of a harp. A plastic gnome lying on his back, and like Jack Kennedy has part of his skull missing, and with clear eyes staring directly at the same nothing and the same everything as me. We are long suffering, he and I, waiting on Mayan prophecy, headlong into the sky, waiting on the moon, waiting, still waiting. The humanists try to solve spiritual puzzles with rhetorical action, which is not action at all, but moral relative insolution. Oh, but a poet am I, and the gnome and the gargoyle in our sky, somewhere we know how not to multiply. The abortionist climbs into his Bentley and motors away from the office after another day, leaving an assortment of tiny chalk lines, forensic offerings to his pantheon of infidelity, lonesome self-denial, and house in the Hamptons. And I humbly bow my head and pray that God shall untangle this day as I stretch on this material rack, tangled in Iron Maiden of black, but praying just the same, be though as it may. And rightfully I join the gnome in meditation, and the gargoyle frightens the dwelling spirits, and my breath winds down, and the whole clown begins to frown, as the firewall in between everything leaves the crown. Each fallen sparrow outsmarts the gull, my bloated ego implodes, unscrewing the top of my skull. How the gargoyle with medieval angst and gore has seen it all, he has seen it all before. A young woman beautifully glides by in the ceremonial superficiality of not a care, the unbelievability of her unblemished hair. Supernaturally, the gargoyle, the gnome, and I are sitting around cafe table, politely chatting up the soft revolution while sipping warm liquids, the surreality of the pop, dictatorial executive synapses, snaps, crackles, and pops before us, a Super Bowl of toxic puffed rice, the cultist persona in his cabinet of bells market this food-bearing stuff, spoon feeding it to 300 million blind mice, to the applaud of the assembled lapdog of monolithic news speakers, and the usual crustacean of Hollywood pleasure seekers. Me, I've always been in this sort of suspended dimension, where the nightingales and the bards are armed with holy psalms, and the ever-loving I Am facelessly speaks through the bleeding bride, and all the world's instrumentation makes no sense. And so I, a stranger in a strange land, and everyone and everything looks to me as mad, in the cumulative insurmountable assembly of every single noun and pronoun, verb at me in a humiliating cascade, falling down from the watchtower, and vitamin-choking hatred. And it is here finally I learned to love, at my back hell's iron gates, and just before me the narrow road, where the prince and the dove whisper at every detour that God is great and God is good, and in calm adoration I ask if I should die before I wake. When I was a little boy, and you were a little girl, I'd see you on the playground. I'd see you walking home after school. I'd see you all around when I was a little boy, and you were a little girl. When I was a big boy, and you were a big girl, I'd see you in the school's halls. I'd kiss you through your bedroom window. I'd talk to you in the shopping malls when I was a big boy, and you were a big girl. When I was no longer a boy, and you're no longer a girl, I saw you in your wedding gown. I saw you and our little boy playing on the ground. I held on to you as long as I could when I was no longer a boy, and you're no longer a girl. Unannounced to me, the gargoyle and the gnome return to their rightful place in the garden, and again I'm alone and fighting gravity and losing every battle to win the war. Against every plentiful shock troop, goose-stepping from molecular principality. Use my gifts within me to float, to see. In these transgressions, the dark hole of hurt, which stretches far and wide, where the stony satellite's enlightenment won't reside, where I can't shake this boxcar, can't jump off this ride, where the mayor walks the streets in a gown, and the elders mix their cement with an ancient coquina mound, and they're fixing all the corners, they're making them round. Surely in the back of the temple mound, the money changers spinning around, making complex what was simple and hardly make a sound, guarding their door, the 7 nations hellhound, foaming with slanderous rumors and clawing at the ground, and spitting out war and malignant tumors. Suffer the little children, Madam George, genuflex, and ask the elders for a light. How smoky that she whispers, only might makes right. And the multitudes of gulls and bombardiers float above the rain and frozen tears, and light shoots out of my sockets upon the imps with ringing ears, and all the lonely patrons who never sees, never hears. And I know I've strayed all these days and lonely years, making it right in my mind but never in my heart, not knowing if it will ever end and if it will ever start. The American president and the other Nazi and the rest of the insolvent musketeers focus on their game of Yahtzee, their lobbyists holding dictionaries and whispering in their ears, and the rest of the Politburo dangle in the rears, and the rockets' red glare and the bombs bursting in air. Over ramparts we watched, and the empire crumbles as a cloud of dust settles upon the unsuspecting, who float only inches above the concrete, staring at their blackberries in subconscious disbelief, looking for meaning in their alphabet soup, too smart in their ignorance, alone in their peer group. The congressmen are tossing tomorrow's newspapers into enormous tree-shredding machines and giving and taking away inalienable rights as heavy as biology books, with staccato hedge reams and with gout in their hearts, minds, dreams. The church doors are closed on Monday, and the last honest citizen has confessed. The forgotten American soldier who did not cut the mustard never failed to pass the test, and he sleeps in a soldier's grave like custard and never will protest. The despots devour the desperados in a specific title pang. The pain stabs everywhere, that old familiar game. The solitary broom sweeps over nothing in vain, a spell of rusty tracks that never had a train. And I all alone, in the gnome and the garden, in the collective appliance, in the gargoyle of stone, and all that lies beyond science, and no place to call a home. The totality of the cosmos, the depths of my heart, Sometimes I feel the love in me has almost been snuffed out, and the stars only show indifference in the hour of my greatest anguish. Any expression of my deepest, most heartfelt breath run into unregistered waves with the bent energy of my lost love, and it takes my breath away to have thought it couldn't happen here.